The scale is moving. Your clothes may fit differently. You may be eating less than you did before. So why do the grocery bags still feel heavy? Why do the stairs feel no easier? Why might you feel smaller without feeling noticeably stronger? The answer begins with a distinction that is easy to miss. Losing weight and building strength are not the same physical process. One can happen without the other. So let's separate weight, food intake, protein, movement, and everyday function, and look at why these details become more useful when they are considered together. The scale is moving. So why don't you feel stronger? It is reasonable to expect that carrying less weight would make everything feel easier. Sometimes it does. Walking may feel more comfortable. Clothes may move differently. Certain tasks may require less effort. But a lower number on the scale does not tell you what created that change. The scale cannot fully explain changes in body composition. It cannot tell you whether your muscles are being challenged, and it cannot tell you whether your ability to lift, carry, stand, or climb has improved. Those are separate questions. The first step is to stop asking one number to answer all of them. Smaller does not automatically mean stronger. Weight describes how heavy the body is. Muscle mass describes part of the body's composition. Strength describes the ability of muscles to produce force. Daily function describes what you can actually do. Carrying groceries, getting out of a chair, climbing stairs, standing long enough to prepare a meal. These measures are related, but they are not interchangeable. During substantial weight loss, fat mass may fall, while lean mass can also change. They do not necessarily move in the same way. That is one reason the scale alone cannot tell the full story. And then there is food. Eating less can also mean getting less protein. For someone taking a GLP-1 medication, appetite may be reduced and portions may become much smaller. A person may become full before finishing the protein on the plate. Breakfast may disappear. Meat may feel less appealing. A meal that once worked may suddenly feel too heavy. None of these changes, by itself, explains everything. But together, they may change how much total food and how much protein a person is actually consuming. This can happen quietly because the person may still be eating every day. The question is not always whether food is present. The question is what remained after appetite, taste, tolerance, and portion size changed. So ask a more specific question. Where is protein actually showing up in the day? Not where you intended to eat it, not what is written in a meal plan, not what you bought at the grocery store. Where did you actually eat it? Was there protein at breakfast, or did breakfast disappear? Did you eat the chicken, eggs, yogurt, fish, beans, or another protein source? Or did you become full after a few bites? Did you prepare a complete meal but eat only part of it? Protein matters, but protein is not the whole answer, because weight loss does not train your muscles. Muscles adapt to what they are repeatedly asked to do. Walking is valuable, but walking and resistance training do not place exactly the same demand on the body. Losing pounds does not automatically create progressive resistance. Eating protein does not automatically teach a muscle to produce more force. Strength develops when muscles are appropriately challenged and allowed to adapt over time. That challenge may come from weights, resistance bands, machines, body weight movements, or another form of resistance appropriate for the person. The exact approach should fit the person's health, mobility, experience, and professional guidance. But the distinction remains important. A lighter body and a stronger body are not automatically the same result. And strength often shows up in ordinary tasks before it shows up in a mirror. Think about what happens outside formal exercise. Do grocery bags feel lighter, heavier, or unchanged? Can you stand from a chair as easily as before? Do you pause on the stairs? Are you avoiding objects you used to lift? Are you resting more after cooking, cleaning, showering, or walking through a store? Has opening a jar become more difficult? These are ordinary moments, but ordinary moments can contain useful information. The question is not only, how much do I weigh? It is also, what can I do now? This is where 5 details become useful together: weight, food, protein, movement, and function. First, weight. What changed on the scale and over what period? Second, food. Which meals, foods, and portions changed? Third, protein. Where did protein actually appear in the day? Fourth, movement. What were your muscles asked to do? Walking? Lifting? Resistance exercise? Mostly sitting? And fifth, function. What felt different in ordinary life? None of these categories tells the entire story alone. The value comes from seeing them together. A lower weight with stable daily function is not the same pattern as a lower weight accompanied by repeated difficulty with ordinary tasks. Protein intake without regular resistance is not the same pattern as protein intake combined with consistent muscle use. The pattern becomes more useful when the details can be compared. But there is another problem. Changes rarely announce themselves. There may not be one morning when you wake up and clearly know that your strength has changed. Instead, you carry a bag with the other hand. You take the elevator. You stop finishing breakfast. You sit down while getting dressed. You skip an exercise because you feel tired. Each moment feels too small to remember, but several small changes may eventually form a pattern. By the time the pattern becomes obvious, the beginning can be difficult to locate. That is the memory problem. The change was happening while ordinary life was also happening. There was no announcement, no clean starting date, no single detail that explained everything. Later, you try to remember when it started. Was it after a dose change? Was it during a week when nausea was stronger? Had your portions become smaller? Had you stopped eating breakfast? Were you exercising at the time? Were the stairs already becoming more difficult, or did that begin later? Memory tries to rebuild the sequence after the fact, but the information was spread across different days, meals, activities, and decisions. You may know something changed and still struggle to explain the order. That is where a written record becomes useful. A written record connects what memory separates. It places the treatment period beside the food change. It places the food change beside protein intake. It places protein beside movement. And it places those details beside daily function. The purpose is not to document every bite, every step, or every sensation. That would create too much work. The purpose is to preserve enough information to recognize direction. What stayed steady? What gradually disappeared? What became more difficult? What improved? What happened once, and what began happening repeatedly? A useful record reduces the amount of reconstruction required later, because the scale answers only one question: what does the body weigh at this moment? The scale cannot tell you whether you are stronger. It cannot tell you whether carrying groceries became easier. It cannot show that a protein-rich breakfast quietly disappeared several weeks ago. It cannot show whether you performed resistance exercise twice this week or none at all. And it cannot explain why climbing the stairs feels different. The scale is not useless. It is simply limited. The mistake is not using the scale. The mistake is asking it to answer questions it was never designed to answer. So ask what changed outside the scale. Can you carry the same grocery bags? Can you lift a laundry basket? Can you rise from a chair as easily as before? Can you climb the same number of stairs without stopping? Can you stand long enough to prepare food? One difficult day does not automatically establish a pattern. Sleep, illness, hydration, pain, stress, and many other factors may affect how a person feels or performs. Look for repeated changes and direction over time, and serious weakness should not be treated as merely a tracking issue. New, severe, rapidly worsening, or one-sided weakness, or weakness accompanied by another urgent symptom, requires prompt medical attention. For ordinary record keeping, keep the 5 details in one place. A useful entry does not need to become a full diary. It might say, weight changed this week. Breakfast was skipped 4 mornings. Protein foods were difficult to finish. No resistance exercise was completed. Grocery bags felt heavier on 2 trips. That brief entry preserves more specific information than a vague note saying, "I felt weak." The goal is not perfect documentation. The goal is enough continuity to compare one period with another. When the same categories are used consistently, small entries begin to create a larger picture, and specific details can lead to better questions. There is a difference between saying, "I do not feel right," and saying, "Over the last 3 weeks, I have been eating smaller portions, skipping breakfast, doing no resistance exercise, and finding the stairs more difficult." The second statement does not diagnose the cause, but it gives a physician, dietitian, physical therapist, or another qualified professional more specific information to consider. It may help you ask better questions. Could my intake be too low? Should my protein intake be reviewed? Is this exercise approach appropriate for me? Could another medical issue be contributing? Do my medications or dose changes need to be discussed? A written record does not replace professional judgment. It improves the information brought into the conversation. So why can the weight come off before strength shows up? Because weight loss, muscle preservation, and strength development are connected, but they are not the same outcome. Weight may fall as total intake changes. Protein intake may also change when meals and portions become smaller. Muscles may receive little resistance even while body weight is changing, and daily function may improve, remain stable, or become more difficult depending on the complete picture. The answer is not to fear weight loss. The answer is to stop treating weight as the only outcome worth noticing. Pay attention to what you actually eat. Notice where protein is present. Record what your muscles are being asked to do. And pay attention to what ordinary life is showing you. Keep the details together. Sacred books. Health was created around questions that become difficult to answer when important details are spread across memory. The book, "Why Does the Weight Come Off But the Strength Doesn't Show Up?" explores this question in greater depth. The protein and strength record provides one written place for keeping related details together over time. You can find both through the links in the description below. This video is for general educational purposes. It does not diagnose a condition or replace advice from your physician or another qualified healthcare professional. Thank you for watching Sacred Books Health. Questions about health changes answered clearly.